Hello and welcome to Cult Classic Society, the podcast where I, Bobby Davis, and my pal Tim Martini.
Hello.
Yeah, I didn't lead you in for your silly joke anymore. I'm not doing it anymore. We look at movies, television, video games, music, and anything else media tangential we want to have a little chat about. And yeah, we watch it, we listen to it, and then we bang on for about an hour. In some cases, closer to 2. Those edits are brutal, Tim. How are you, Tim?
Yeah. Well, you just mentioned the brutal edits. Yeah, it's been it's been a good time. I'm currently in the process of just wrapping up a new song. Actually, I've been teaming up with a couple of friends of mine in their bands, and just reached out to them like, "Hey, I wrote this song. You guys want to do it?" And they're like, "Yeah, absolutely." So it sounded good, sounding very different to everything else I've worked on. So yeah, I'm really excited about it.
That's really surprising. Surprising that you have friends. No, that you have friends to reach out.
The only friends I have are the ones that do favors or can exploit for media, like a podcast or music.
Oh, I see how it is. I'm your gateway to getting your face on everything again because this
podcast was your idea.
Yeah, but you accepted because you wanted your face on everything. I'm seeing how it is.
Exactly.
Right, Timothy. We are going to be talking about a film that I'm really surprised you hadn't seen. Because I know part of the thing of us discussing these kind of things is that I am 10 years older than you. We should have slightly different views because of that. But this film was it was just everywhere when I was younger. Everyone has seen it. Everyone quoted it. It is an unbelievably quotable film. And the fact I was genuinely... I know you're not huge on your British cinema, really, but I was just surprised you hadn't seen it.
So, I've had experience with Guy Ritchie films before. I think the first one I saw was Rock and Roller, actually. And see, people don't like it. I enjoyed it for what it was, but I guess, obviously, if it was my first Guy Ritchie movie, probably not seen this prior, didn't really have expectations. To me, he's a very hit or miss director.
Yeah, this is his best film, I think. This is why we're discussing it. His second best film is Lock, Stock. I wouldn't say that I'm not a huge Guy Ritchie fan. I just like this movie and I like Lock, Stock. I wouldn't say I'm a follower of his work as such. I don't think he's that good. I know he did the Sherlocks with Robert Downey Jr.
Oh, yeah.
And they were average. They were fine.
Yeah, they were fine. I know he did the live-action Aladdin movie.
That was all right.
It wasn't really Guy Ritchie, though.
No, it wasn't his style at all. I think the Sherlocks were definitely closer to the kind of thing he likes doing. In fact, there's a scene in Snatch, which we'll talk about later, which he kind of repeats in one of the Sherlock, the stylized scene he kind of repeats in Sherlock. I'll talk about it when we get there. This was at the time, so in my dissertation, I wrote about adaptation, and I wrote about Sherlock, because at the time there were 3 versions of Sherlock doing the rounds, which was that version with Guy Ritchie and Robert Downey Jr., there was the BBC one with Benedict Cumberbatch, Martin Freeman, and then there was Elementary.
Yes.
The American one with Lucy Liu playing a version of Watson and Johnny Miller, is that his name?
Johnny Lee Miller, I believe.
Lee Miller playing Sherlock. And interesting fact, Johnny Lee Miller and Benedict Cumberbatch
in Frankenstein together.
Yeah, and they used to alternate who does the lead in Frankenstein every night. One was the monster,
you can watch
one was
both versions of those on Amazon Prime, actually.
No, really?
Yeah. It was during COVID they released a bunch of National Theatre productions, including the original one-woman show of Fleabag.
Oh, cool. I'll have to let Katie know about that. She'll like that. She likes Fleabag. The things that I know that were released were musicals, because Katie loves musicals. But Come From Away is fantastic. That's been released. I think it's either on Disney or it's on Amazon. And then Hamilton as well.
Yeah.
Right, but enough of jabbering on about other stuff tangentially related. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about Snatch, released in 2000, like we said, written and directed by Guy Ritchie, starring Jason Statham. Jason is the lead. He is number one. And we open with meeting him with his weirdly named character, Turkish. Do you remember how he got his name, Tim?
I do not know. I was distracted by the fact that Jason Statham had hair.
Very little, but he had some, yes. He's named Turkish after a plane crash. Presumably a Turkish Airlines one, but that's because his parents met on it. Yep. And we meet his best friend, Tommy, who's played by Stephen Graham. I love Stephen Graham. I think he's fantastic. Really good in This Is England. He's also been in, I think he's in Pirates of the Caribbean, Peaky Blinders. He does all sorts. But he's just a fantastic actor. I love Stephen Graham.
Oh, yeah, no, he has one of those recognizable faces, because I did the class of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, point what? Oh, it's him.
Yeah, oh yeah, you get your Leo point on, did you?
Yeah.
This film was really great for that, because there's so many decent actors in this film. And then there's little ones as well that you'll just recognise from other things.
Oh, yeah.
Turkish and Tommy are business partners. Their business is promoting illegal boxing. The film starts with that voiceover and Turkish saying, somehow I got involved in diamonds. There's all these Cockney accents on this fucking film. And then we cut to some CCTV footage and we get some what appeared to be Hasidic Jews going through some kind of diamond. It's a jewellery shop that you go through the back of, and then there's an office where they clearly keep other stuff. Turns out that obviously they're not Hasidic Jews.
Yeah,
but what's really funny
robbery.
It's a robbery. But on the way through, they're actually discussing the idea of Immaculate Conception and Adam and Eve.
Yeah.
And apparently Guy Ritchie got this from, I think it was Pulp Fiction I read. The idea that they're just inanely chatting. So in Pulp Fiction, you had the bit where John Travolta and Samuel L. Jackson are talking about burgers and McDonald's. It's inane, and he goes on for 4 minutes. And that's kind of what they're doing here, except these people who are posing as rabbis are pretending to have this inane conversation. So when they get through, they bust open their jackets, and one of them has 4 guns attached to his chest.
Yeah.
And they all grab a gun and start shouting and hitting people with their guns. I can't believe we haven't done a gangster film till this point, or a crime film, because my favourite films in my late teens and 20s were just gangster films. Goodfellas is top of my list. It's taken 41 I can't believe we're on episode 41. It's taken 41 episodes to get to a gangster movie. So good. They tell everyone they're looking for a specific diamond, and they're going to beat on them until the location is revealed. Then we cut, and they're in the getaway van. They've got the diamond. It just cuts away, and we have a visual introduction of all the characters. Well, I'm not going to go through it, but I quite like it. But stylistically, it looks quite cool. But it's akin to one of my least favorite things, which is pre-movie credits.
Oh yeah, you're not a fan of those.
No, the only reason I don't think it's as bad as pre-movie credits is there's a lot of characters in this movie, and I think it helps give you a face and a name.
Yeah, I wrote in my notes, I'm not going to remember all these characters.
No, it's a lot. One of the heist team, we find out is Johnny, is taking the diamond to London, and the other member of the heist team says he needs to go see Boris the Blade to get a gun.
Yeah.
And we cut away, and Turkish and Tommy, Jason Statham and Stephen Graham, are watching one of their illegal boxers, their underground boxers, Gorgeous George, who's a massive bloke, trained for his boxing match. This is my earliest quote, because I said to you before, I said it when I said we were going to do this movie, I think this is the most quotable movie ever. And it starts here. Turkish says to Tommy, because Tommy's always going a bit hard, Turkish says, "It's an unlicensed boxing match, Tommy. It's not a tickling competition." Oh, fucking hell. Just every other line in this movie makes me laugh. We find out Turkish is running the fights from his caravan office, and he wants an upgrade, and he's sending Tommy to go get it from a campsite. Now, we're going to cover something here that I think... I tried to do some research into this, whether this has been considered, outdated now, and I genuinely couldn't find much about the idea that this could possibly be considered a slur, or...
Well, it's because, it is... I know what word you're referring to, and it is genuinely considered a slur these days, but at the same time, you still have, people still use it anyway.
Yeah. I did some, I Googled it and I was like, is this film controversial now? Because they use this word a lot.
Yeah.
And there's a bit later that I've read a little bit about people like, oh, that bit's a bit not PC anymore, but it was nothing to do with this. So,
Yeah.
Turkish is sending Tommy to go buy this caravan from the members of the travelling community.
Yeah.
There's a word that begins with P. I don't even know if we should say it because I don't know. It's
Yeah,
actually
I
considered
should avoid saying it anyway.
But Tommy says, I fucking hate, and you know the word, it begins with a P,
Yeah.
and it's about the travelling community. There is that, I think the line is said 4 or 5 times in the film.
Yeah.
Turkish realises, as they're in their chat, that Tommy's got a gun. And there's another recurring joke here, because Tommy says it's for protection, and he says, from what? The Germans. He says, what's to stop it blowing your bollocks off? What's to stop it blowing your bollocks off every time you sit down? Yeah, this whole interaction between them two, it's clear that Turkish is in charge, and that Tommy is he seems like a bit of a joke to not only Turkish, but to kind of everyone he meets, as we'll see going forward. Tommy says he's got the gun because he's worried about the best character in this movie. He's worried about the person we meet next. We cut to Bricktop, played by Alan Ford, and Bricktop is fucking brilliant. Bricktop is #1 gangster. He is head honcho. He's a fucking psychopath. Everyone's scared of him. He's got loads of blokes who work for him. Oh, it's so good. I read something else that apparently Bricktop used to be an old-fashioned nickname for someone with red hair. So maybe before he went grey, he was a ginger. Yours isn't natural. Don't look at that. So Bricktop also sets up unlicensed boxing matches, but he isn't always fair. But so Turkish sets them up and they're actual fights, and you can bet on them. Bricktop fixes all these fights and then gets his mates to win loads of money. He's fucking nuts. And when he's watching his fight, he's like, oh, he's great, isn't he? One of his lackeys is like, oh yeah, he's top, boss. And he's like, pull your tongue out of my arsehole, Gary. Oh, I fucking love it. Like, everything he says is so funny. Straight after that, he has 2 of his blokes killed. They stun gun them and tape them up, and then we later find out they get fed to pigs.
Yeah.
This whole time we've got Turkish narrating. Now, sometimes narration, we've said it before on here, I fucking hate over-exposition. I think because of the amount of characters in this movie, and then we don't need to cut back to Turkish to hear why he's scared of someone or why he wants something from someone.
Yeah.
You have that person doing their thing and then the voiceover. I think Guy Ritchie's done quite a good job here. I don't always love a voiceover, but I think it works for this.
Yeah, I think he strikes a nice balance between it, because he has the voiceover of Turkish, his reason behind everything. Then you see the actual visually why he would be scared of the person. So I think it works in that sense. It's not like he said, I'm scared of him because he feeds his employees to dogs. He goes, I'm scared of him. And you see, this is why. Yeah.
Turkish and Tommy meet up with Bricktop at his pig farm. They say they don't want to be in his debt, and Bricktop immediately says, you owe me. And even though the way he says he owes him is completely backwards, because he's actually already done Bricktop a favour, but apparently for accepting the favour, Turkish still owes him. Turkish doesn't like the fights where people take a dive. He doesn't love working with Bricktop, but when Bricktop says you got to work with him, apparently you got to work with him.
Yeah.
As Tommy asks Bricktop about the pigs, and he goes, "Who the fuck's talking to you, boy?" Just immediately disrespecting him. We get more of Bricktop's just bluntness, and Tommy gets nothing. So good.
Yeah.
We find out one of the heist team sells Frankie. So Frankie's the one who's coming to London with the diamond. He sells him out to Boris the Blade, saying about he's got this diamond and they want it, but he couldn't just kill him because then it'll get back to the Russians. And Boris can't do it either. They need to get him killed and get the diamond another way so it doesn't come back to them. Confusing. Frankie calls his cousin Avi, who is another American, and tells Avi about the diamond. He says, go see Doug the Head in London, who's another one of their cousins.
Yeah.
And says, stay away from the casinos, Frankie. Now, do you recognise Doug the Head?
I didn't recognise him, no.
He's very famous to a certain generation. That is Mike Reed. was a comedian, stand-up, and then he went on to play Frank Butcher in EastEnders.
Oh, okay.
And he was
I
in
never
it
watched
for...
EastEnders, so...
No, I wasn't a big watcher, but I know who the character is. He was a big deal for a long time. To be honest, by the time you even called us heavily aware of EastEnders, he'd probably been killed off, I think. Very 90s.
Likely, like every character in EastEnders.
Yeah, very 90s character. We find out Doug pretends to be Jewish, because apparently it's good for business, especially in the diamond trade. I don't know what that means, but Doug does it. Doug has some utes hanging out outside his shop, but they're like Hasidic Jewish utes.
Yeah.
He tells them to fuck off. He's also got twins who work for him. They're his daughters. They work for him. We cut to Frankie, who's buying a gun off Boris as he was instructed, and he doesn't know he's being set up. You're gonna have to stay with us, listeners, because there's a lot of jumping. The scenes aren't long; they kind of jump a lot.
Yeah.
Boris sends Frankie to put a bet on at one of Bricktop's boxing matches because he says he isn't welcome, but he's just trying to set him up to go somewhere to get killed, as we know. Tommy and Gorgeous George the boxer, Tommy, Stephen Graham, head to the campsite to buy the caravan. They both, again, repeat that phrase, fucking hate. Yeah. The kids from the campsite are all around their car, and one of them tries to get Tommy to give him a $5 to go find who he's looking for, which is Mickey. And Tommy goes, I'll give you £1 and you're looking for it. And we find Mickey is played by...
Brad Pitt.
Were you surprised by this?
No, because this is the one thing I knew about the movie.
Do you know why he's in this movie?
Was he a fan of Lock, Stock and Smoking Barrels?
He is. He's a fan of Guy Ritchie. And he really wanted to be in his next movie. But the film he filmed just before this was Fight Club.
Oh.
And he was genuinely worried that he was playing essentially two kind of boxing, fighting characters back to back.
Yeah.
But he wanted to work with Ritchie so much, he kind of was like, okay, no, I'll do it. Now, originally, he wasn't supposed to be a traveller.
Oh, really?
But he couldn't do a London accent.
Oh, of course.
So, and obviously, we've seen some dodgy London accents in films, and I love Charlie Hunnam. And Charlie Hunnam is half English. He's a Geordie, and he's half American. We know him as the lead in Sons of Anarchy, and he's been in quite a few things, but he's in a film called Green Street about football hooliganism and their West Ham fans. And their London accent, or his London accent, is trash. And it seems to just disappear halfway through the movie. It's almost like they shot in chronological order and he slowly gives up on the accent. But yeah, I'd rather no London accent, even though it's in London.
Done a bad one.
Yeah. Apparently they figured out he could do what is considered the traveller accent. We hear Turkish's voiceover saying, it's not Irish, it's not English, it's just, and that word again.
Yeah.
Mickey's shocked at the size of Gorgeous George. George stays with the car to watch it. Mickey's mum's like, what do you think, we're thieves? And he's like, no, he just likes to watch cars. Mickey asks Tommy if he likes dogs. Tommy doesn't understand what he's saying.
Because he says, you like dags?
The dags, the kind of DAG.
Yeah.
As well, as a traveller would, that's how they would pronounce it. You know what, I'll say this for Brad Pitt, he doesn't do a bad traveller accent.
No, he does actually a pretty decent one.
Yeah, because like I said, a lot of people akin it to Irish, but it's not quite Irish. It's thicker and faster.
Yeah,
and I think it's even got elements of things like Scouse and Geordie almost in there as well.
Yeah, it's a nice blend.
It's quite non-distinct in a lot of ways. So this is I've got to this is something that Do You Like Dags was quoted all the time at school. Anyone kind of my age, born in the late 80s, went to secondary school, early 2000s.
Yeah.
You would have heard Do You Like Dags? Mostly as a kind of dig at the travelling community. I think most places around London, you have some interaction with travellers. There is a traveller site fairly near where I grew up. And actually, there's a really great moment I remember. There's a bus stop. It was a bus terminus stop. So it's one of those ones where sometimes the bus just sits for a while. And this guy, big bloke, was sat there, back just like that. And behind the bus stop was this big playing green, like a park and stuff like that. And these 4 traveller kids. The oldest one couldn't have been older than about 8. I watched them sneak up behind him, trying to be quiet. All of them, all at once, like lined up behind the bus stop. I just went bang, 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 bang on the plastic. I scared the shit out of this bloke. The bloke was about 6'4", and he chased them. But he was a chubby bloke as well. He could not catch them. They ran laughing their heads off. That is my abiding memory of the traveling community around where I grew up. I don't know why. I happened to see it as I walked past. It was very funny. They attach the caravan to Tommy's car. They throw the dog in with the deal. Apparently that's a thing. Mickey has a fat wad of cash, which is obviously the 10 Gs. I didn't say this, but Turkish give him 10 grand to buy the caravan. Just as they're about to pull away, and Tommy says, "Oh, they're not bad, really. They're not bad fellas, those guys." The axle comes off the caravan. So, like, he's being towed by the car, and the car just pulls the wheels and the axle out from under the caravan. And we cut back, and Mickey's just telling Tommy, "Oh, you bought it as you saw it." And he's got a great quote here where he says, "I've helped you as much as I'm going to help you. You see that car? I suggest you use it before you're not welcome anymore. I think you should fuck off while you still got the legs to carry you." And it's like, oh, okay. Mickey points out, so Mickey feels disrespected here, actually. We find out that I feel like the film would have played out differently if Tommy would have gone on his own.
Yeah.
Because Mickey seems disrespected here, because he points out no one brings someone the size of George unless you're trying to make a point.
Yeah.
So I think from this point onwards, you see the guy Ritchie's being like, oh, they felt disrespected that someone felt like they needed a heavy to come see them.
Yeah.
And they would have maybe just sold him a regular caravan and let him get on his way had he not taken the piss, so they think.
Yeah.
So I thought that was quite a nice subtle point in their favour. We thought obviously it all backfires on them in a respect we see later, but I quite like that moment where you realise he just feels a bit disrespected. Mickey offers George a fight, saying like they'll fight you for the money.
Yeah.
And Mickey's mum tries to stop it. He says, "You know what happens when you fight people? We don't know what that means yet. We'll find out." Mickey... Oh, it's for the money and a new caravan as well. So it's either the 10 Gs back or a new caravan. George... They looks like they're in like a barn almost, and they're surrounded by like wooden pallets as the fight starts. George starts with some cheap shots to Mickey, and Mickey just keeps getting back up. George like throws him around, like literally picks him up and throws him into the wood. Mickey keeps getting back up. It's almost like cartoony at one point. Like there's a camera shot of just George, and then out of the bottom of the shot, Mickey pops up, and he's just like stretching.
He's just brushing it off like nothing's happening.
What did you think was going to happen at this point?
Oh, I kind of just saw that coming. Like if he's like just tanking all these shots, it's gonna be just like a one hit situation.
Yeah. So Mickey is like playing with George. He's still like doing stretches as he's being beaten up, and George is like, "Stay down. You know, you're gonna get punished if you keep getting back up." And then Mickey's like, "All right then," cracks his neck. George steps in. Mickey just sidesteps him and does him with one punch, and it's fucking a beautiful shot. And all like there's a sudden sound and it goes dark, and we get the voiceover of Turkish being like, "Turns out Mickey is a bare knuckle boxing champion."
Yeah.
Oh shit.
See, I didn't realise. So I thought Mickey actually killed George with that punch, because like blood was coming out of George's like nose. Like, oh, he's killed him.
So I think you're supposed to think that, because we get a little bit of exposition in the voiceover again. The two of the travellers arguing with each other as Tommy stands there looking scared, and Turkish says if George doesn't wake up, and essentially if he dies, they'll kill Tommy too, because it's easier for them just to kill two people, bury them and leave.
Yeah.
Easier than letting Tommy go and then maybe the police coming, or... So yeah, they don't want that. So Tommy's like shitting himself. We find out, obviously, because we see Tommy again later, that isn't the case. And we even see George right near the end of the film again.
Yeah.
Next we meet Sol and Vince. They're kind of diamond dealers and jewellery dealers in a pawn. They've got a pawn shop in London. And they're visited by someone called Lincoln, who has what is essentially a fake diamond. And they're like, "Get out of here, let us deal with the diamonds." I don't think you will have recognised him, but Lincoln, do you know who was the actor was?
I didn't recognise Lincoln, no.
That's Goldie, who is like a DJ.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he was, again, early 2000s. You would have probably known. If you were a bit older, you would have known who he was. Vince brings a dog into the shop, and he's from the campsite. So it turns out this is just a thing they do, throwing dogs with every deal. Sol's upset that he wants to keep the dog, and Boris comes in. Boris the Blade, with the Russian we met earlier. As he holds the door open, the dog leaves. And Vince chases after it, but Boris comes in to offer Sol 50 grand to do a hold up on a bookies. And he thinks, 50 grand plus, whatever cash is in the bookies. Yeah, I'm in. Frankie is having Doug the head. So Frankie, do you want me to just explain the characters really back, because there's so many of them? So Frankie is the Diamond Heist guy. He's explaining to Doug, who is Mike Reed.
And he's played by Benicio del Toro.
Yes, he is Benicio del Toro. Yeah, sorry, I should have mentioned that. He has Doug check the diamond. It's got something silly like 36 carats. Or it might be more than that. It's a silly amount. Or I can't remember, 100 or whatever.
It's a very valuable diamond.
Yeah. Sol and Vince are on their way to do the job, and they've hired someone called Tyrone, who is a massive dude, and he's basically got a catchphrase. I can't remember which one. It's either Sol or Vince. He's saying, "Oh, don't worry, Tyrone's great. He's done a rally driving course." He goes, "Course I have," and he says, "Course I have," like 5 times. Vince has got the dog in the back of the car, and he explains that the dog went back to the campsite. Obviously, this is a thing that the travellers are trained them to do, whether it is to just come back, because obviously the dog is part of the deal, and then the dog finds its way back.
Yeah, so they can just sell him again.
Yeah, Vince, somehow, has got himself a fucking shotgun. And Sol's like, that isn't a gun, that is an anti-aircraft.
Yeah.
Tyrone is driving, and he doesn't want to parallel park. He says it's too tight. And they're like, you can put a fucking jumbo jet.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it turns out Tyrone is shit.
Yeah.
He even then backs the car into a van.
Yeah. Which Frankie was inside getting changed.
Yeah, we find out that in a second. But I think Sol tells him not to pull the van forward, because then you'll see the damage and people will be suspicious. Just leave it as is, just for the second, while they go in and do the job. We cut back to Turkish, who is upset that George got hurt, and they're meant to have a fight. He's meant to have a fight against Bricktop's guy in 2 days. Now they need another fighter, and he knows that Bricktop's going to be a dick about it. And Turkish says, "You know what? We'll use Mickey, because obviously he is fucking great, a bare knuckle champion. Let's use Mickey." He tells Tommy to go back to the campsite and offer Mickey 10 grand.
Shit.
We cut straight to that, and Mickey's like, "I don't want that. I want a top of the range caravan for my mum."
Yeah.
And he's like, shows him this caravan. It's worth more than 10 grand, obviously. He's like, "I just want my mum taken care of." But what's really funny is he's in the middle, and he's got 4 or 5 people on either side of him, and they're in this tiny caravan. And the sofas in a caravan, where obviously you had the table in the middle, but the table could be folded down, and they're all these big blokes crammed onto these sofa. And every time Tommy says something to them, they kind of come in and whisper to each other.
Yeah, they have a little huddle.
Yeah. So Mickey agrees to do it for this caravan. Turkish and Tommy go to visit Bricktop, and in the voiceover we hear Turkish say Bricktop is going to pull his trousers down, grease him up, and aim for penetration for changing fighter. So funny. There is a horrible bit as they kind of go through Bricktop's warehouse where we see a dead dog, as they've clearly had a dog fight in one of the pits. So the warehouse, I don't know if you've ever seen a warehouse where you bring a lorry in, but there's a lowered platform so that the lorry's load is on ground level.
Yeah.
And that's what they're in. They're in that lowered bit with the door closed. And yeah, one of the dogs is dead, so they clearly have dog fights. And you see cockerels and stuff as well, so they clearly do cockfighting. Kind of a bunch of horrible stuff. And we even see in a second, we see Bricktop teasing one of the dogs with a stick, which is apparently the actor was trying to make a point, because Alan Ford, who plays it, he's actually an animal rights activist.
Okay.
So yeah, the actor was he thought that picking on a dog would make Bricktop like the worst person ever. And it kind of does.
Yeah, it does.
Turkish tells Bricktop that Mickey is mustard. And then we get another one of those fucking lines. He says, I don't care if he's Muhammad, Ahmad, Bruce Lee. You can't change fighters. Obviously referring to Muhammad Ali.
Yeah.
And Bruce Lee. Tommy goes to say something to Bricktop, and Bricktop says to Turkish, put a lead on her, Turkish, before she gets bitten. And you don't want to get bitten now, do you, sweetheart? He just will not give Tommy the time of day at all. Bricktop tells Turkish that Mickey has to go down in the fourth round for the fixed fight.
Yeah.
And Turkish like, yeah, he'll go down. Don't worry about it. And then another great line from Bricktop. You're on thin fucking ice, my pedigree chums, and I shall be under it when it breaks. Now, fuck off. We get Avi, who's the American, who's like the liaison with Frankie, talking to Doug. Avi is worried about Frankie gambling. And I think Doug says something about, he's gone to like an illegal boxing match. So Avi's like, for fuck's sake, he's going to gamble. He goes to London and he's pissed about it.
He flies like a very quick montage, like his parcels goes in the cab, parcel gets stamped, flight comes over, he has a drink on the flight, and he's just there.
Yeah, you kind of get a POV of like the lunch tray on a plane. He guzzles down his drink, and then he's just there in London. Which, when you're rich, you could probably like arrive at an airport and be at London, depending if he's in New York.
Yeah,
be in London in kind of 8 hours. Vince, Sol, and Tyrone are waiting for Frankie outside the bookie. So what they've been told is they need to wait. So he's called Frankie Four Fingers. They need to wait for a bloke with a briefcase who has 4 fingers.
Yeah,
and that's when they start the heist. They go to the heist. They take the money and they get 50 grand. But they need to take the case and give it to Boris. Doug and Avi make their way to the fight. Bricktop is telling people, like clearly his mates, that the other fighter is going to take a dive in the fourth. The boys are outside the bookies still, and they think they see Frankie. They just see a bloke with a briefcase, and they're like, was that him? How many fingers did he have? He's like, I don't know. I didn't get the binoculars out. The way he says binoculars makes me laugh so much.
I literally wrote it down with like the pronunciation of how he said the binoculars.
Yeah, what's that called? Phonetically. You wrote it down phonetically. Yeah. Binoculars. Every time, like, it's one of those things because I've watched this film so much and I love this film. When I see a pair of binoculars, my brain goes binoculars. So they bust in to hold up the bookies, and the woman behind the counter just kind of doesn't give a shit.
Yeah.
She's like, "Do you know whose bookies this is?" And he's like, "No, should I?" And just as he looks away for a split second, she drops like what are like blast doors, like shutters that are like bulletproof, obviously. And Vince gets caught in one, and Sol has to like pull him out of it. One of them blasts their way through the wall with a shotgun, puts the shotgun through the hole and says, "Open the fucking blast things." And she says, "All bets are off. I've got no cash." And she says, "I ain't buying that." And she says, "That's Andy, because I ain't fucking selling it." She just doesn't care. She's like, "I've got nothing. All bets are off." She points at this sign that literally says, "All bets are off." And all she's got is like coppers in a bag. They realise the customer who they thought was Frankie Four Fingers, they make him like hold his hand up and he's got 5 fingers.
Yeah.
Like, oh shit, it's not even the right guy. As they're paying attention to this other customer, the woman grabs the shotgun off of him.
That's just starts blasting at them.
They like dive through another door and hide in like this hallway. They take off their balaclavas and realise that there's a camera in the corner, and they're like, oh fuck. And they try the door, it doesn't work, and they even say, don't they, like, oh, we're fucked. One of them tries to shoot the door, and the bullet ricochets back and catches one of them.
Yeah.
And after all that, Tyrone just opens the door from the outside.
Because they're trying to push the door open from their side, but no, it's clearly just a pull door for them.
Yeah, so they get in the car, and Tyrone pulls away, and as they pull away, like, Frankie stumbles out the back of that van, clearly a bit rocked from the crash, and Tyrone realises, and he goes and grabs him and throws him in the back of the car, and they're like, what are you doing, Tyrone? He's got 4 fingers.
And a briefcase is clearly in.
At the fight, we see Turkish telling Mickey is going down in the 4th. Right at the beginning of the fight, the opponent headbutts Mickey, which clearly pisses him off, so he knocks him out in one punch with an uppercut.
And he does like a freeze frame on everyone. It's going, oh dear.
So there's a better example in the second fight we see later, but this is kind of the start of it. So in Sherlock, when we see he's that version of Sherlock, he's kind of more of an action hero, isn't he? And he like dissects fights in his head, and you see like the close-ups and then the slow-mos of him punching certain body parts to kind of get the reaction he wants. And I think the second fight shows it more, but this shows it a little bit. Like those close-up and sudden stops, that editing style, that shooting style. He does recreate it in Sherlock.
Yeah.
Bricktop is pissed.
Of course.
So are all his mates. Though, like some of them he apologises to. These are clearly bigger bosses in London. And then there's another guy who clearly isn't so high up. And he's like, "Oh, Bricktop, I blew 40 grand on your bloke." He says, "Listen here, if I throw a dog a bone, I don't want to know if it tastes good. You stop me again while I'm walking and I'll cut your fucking Jacobs off." Like, see, you're not big enough to be giving Bricktop shit.
Exactly, yeah.
Boris comes to Sol's pawn shop. This is where we see how they've got Frankie. He's got a tea cozy on his head. He's still alive with the briefcase attached, but he's all like tied up on the floor. And Boris is like, "Oh, for fuck's sake, why is he still alive?" Boris gets out his gun and puts earplugs in like really calmly. He's like, "All right, yeah." And he just shoots Frankie in the head.
That's when like Sol and Finney say to him, the briefcase has a combination lock, and he was the only one who knew it.
Yeah, but we'd already seen this is not true because they'd already shown Boris the diamond, hadn't they? Oh, what about this? And then apparently we're meant to believe in the preceding 30 seconds, the kind of between these two bits, that they put it back in the case and lock it for some reason.
Yeah.
Although we find out that's not true. We find out they still have it. But Boris then falls for that.
Yeah. I know. At that moment, that did like confuse me. I thought, oh, was he showing like a fake diamond to him then to be like, "Oh, we know what you want," kind of thing. It's like, there's like, oh no, he had the real one the entire time.
Yeah, so in this thing, all you're supposed to believe is Boris is a bit thick, clearly.
Yeah.
That in that kind of 20, 30 seconds, they apparently put it back in the case and locked it. Turkish takes the risks and heads back to his office to get some cash, even though he knows Bricktop is probably going to try and kill him.
Yeah.
Bricktop's men are there and they scare Turkish. And as he turns around to try and leave, Bricktop's waiting. And he's like, "Why don't you open your safe and get me a cup of tea?" And he asks if you want sugar. And we get another one of his lines. "No, thank you, Turkish. I'm sweet enough." Stop me if I'm the one doing all the quotes. If there's any you like, let me know.
Oh, no. You're saying all the good ones, so I can't stop you.
Boris takes the suitcase with the hand, like, wrapped up.
Yeah.
And he still leaves them with the 10k. And he's like, "You're lucky to get that because they want a cut of the diamond." And he's like, "No, you're taking the 10k and you can fuck off." And Boris is scary, so they're like, "Yeah, okay."
Yeah.
Bricktop tells Turkish that he wants to use Mickey in a bare-knuckle fight this time, but this time he has to go down in the fourth. Turkish is obviously, "Oh, for fuck's sake." Like, he could have killed him, but he's like, "Hey, he wants one more thing out of me." Bricktop takes all of Turkish's cash, because Turkish was obviously planning to leave the country. Errol, who's one of Bricktop's henchmen, says, "I think we've let him get away with a bit too much as they're leaving." And there's another great line. He's like, "It can get you into a lot of trouble thinking, Errol. I shouldn't do so much of it." He then tells Errol that he needs to find the people who blagged the bookies. Then we cut to Turkish and Tommy, who are heading back to the campsite. This time, for some reason, Tommy has flowers for Mickey's mum. Either he's trying to butter Mickey up or he's developed a crush on his mum. He's not made clear.
See, I took that's the second one.
Yeah, so did I. Because the way Turkish says to him, he's like, "What are you doing?" This clearly wasn't part of the plan.
Yeah.
Tommy is clearly just got a bit of a soft spot for Mickey's mum. Mickey is off. I can't remember what she called it, but he's hunting hares with dogs, essentially. Like, it's a race. They let the hare go, and then the dog, they bet on if the dog's going to catch the hare. Bricktop's boys are watching the security footage for the bookies, and Tyrone, they don't recognise Vince or Sol, and then Tyrone puts his head through the door and they're like, "Oh, Tyrone, you silly fat fuck."
Yeah.
Turkish and Tommy ask Mickey about the fight, but this time he's like, "I'll do it, but I want an even bigger caravan than the one I asked for last time." They obviously didn't get him in the caravan last time because he didn't do what he was fucking supposed to.
Yeah.
Mickey says, all right, I'll do you a bet. We'll bet on this dog hunting this hare, and whoever wins, either you get me the caravan or I'll fight for free. And they win. And Mickey wins, sorry.
Yeah.
And they lose, and they have to buy this silly fucking massive caravan. We see this kind of slow motion chase as Errol finds Tyrone, and he's like chasing around London, and then we also cut between that and then the lurchers chasing the hare, so it's kind of like the predator hunting the prey kind of motif over both, which I thought was quite a nice touch, and also quite a juxtaposition because obviously they're in the fields and then they're obviously in like the back alleys of London chasing Tyrone.
Yeah.
They take Tyrone to where like one of the dog pits are, one of the fight pits for the dogs, and he starts getting like his ankle bitten by the dog. He's like, I'll fucking tell you. He says, you're a fucking grass Tyrone, straight away.
I mean, his legs were getting nibbled on by dogs, so I think in that situation he's allowed.
I also think he was like hired help. He doesn't seem to have any like loyalty to Vince and the Soul. I don't think they're actually mates. No. The hare gets away, which means Turkish loses the bet. And as they walk away, Turkish says to Tommy, why didn't you get your gun out? And he's like, I bet you it doesn't even fucking work. Tommy's like, it does work. They're still chatting away. And this is again one of those things where it like jumps between the two things. But they go driving, and Tommy tries to fire it out the window and it just clicks and nothing happens. She's like, oh, for fuck's sake, you're gonna have to go get a new one from Boris. Vince the Soul have called Lincoln back in. So Lincoln, played by Goldie, who we saw earlier, to deal with the bodies, to deal with Frankie's body. And they're like, you're supposed to be a bad boy yardie. Help us get rid of this body. He's like, I create the bodies. I don't get rid of them. So when they call someone, he gets fucking rid of them. You prick. Bricktop and his boys come into Soul's pawn shop at the time this is happening. And Bricktop walks in as they're trying to move the body. And he asks if they know who he is. So Bricktop says, do you know who I am? And the only one he does is Lincoln. And the other's like, who the fuck are you? Which is not a thing you say to a fucking gangster.
Yeah.
Bricktop explains. Now, I've got this whole quote written down because I love this bit. This bit is unbelievable. Bricktop explains how to get rid of a body. You need to cut it out first, and this is the best way to get rid of it is to feed it to pigs. So what he says is, first, you got to starve the pigs for a few days. Then the sight of a chopped up body will look like curry to a pisshead. You've got to shave the heads of your victims and pull the teeth, just for the sake of the piggy's digestion. You can do this afterwards, but of course you don't want to go sieving through pig shit now, do you? They will go through bone like butter. You need at least 16 pigs to finish the job in one sitting, so be wary of any man who keeps a pig farm. They will go through a body that weighs 200 pounds in about 8 minutes. This means that a single pig can consume about 2 pounds of uncooked flesh every minute. Hence the expression, as greedy as a pig. Fuck me. Like, it's so... One, I love the structure of that sentence, and the delivery is beautiful. But also, the way this psychopath delivers something like it's a fucking documentary. Like, he's just telling them, oh yeah, this is how, when I kill people, how I get rid of them. Just such a good bit of dialogue. I love that bit. Vince again goes, who the fuck are you, to bring it off? And we get another one of Bricktop's quotes. This one is like top level. I think this is one that like was quoted a lot, which is like, do you know what nemesis means? A righteous infliction of retribution manifested by an appropriate agent, personified in this case by a horrible cunt. Me. Bricktop then takes them into their like walk-in safe, which is he's made of by this time. I've called it Dextered. They're fully Dextered to this room.
Yeah, they're like covered in like plastic, in plastic, so then they can easily just like dismember them in there.
Yeah, Tyrone is tied up on the floor. He's in a body bag, but he's still alive. Like, his head's poking out.
Yeah.
And they've all got saws ready to go. And just as, we're about to get some kind of what's going to happen, we cut to Avi and Doug, who are still trying to find Frankie. They obviously don't know that he's been killed.
Yeah.
The twins, Doug's twins, suggest Bullet Tooth Tony, who's apparently a liability. But who is Bullet Tooth Tony played by, Tim?
Vinnie Jones.
Football and wrestling legend Vinnie Jones.
It's gonna be emotional.
I love Vinnie Jones because Vinnie Jones just plays himself, but he does it so fucking well. He's great in Lock, Stock as well. There's a bit in Lock, Stock where he's like slamming a guy's head in a car door, and the guy swears. He's like, fuck. And then he stops because in Lock, Stock, he's got his son with him who's like 10. He's like, do not swear in front of my boy. Like, he's killing this guy. Yeah, but he was obviously known for being quite an aggressive footballer as well.
Yeah.
And he's just like walked into this acting life where he plays the thugs, essentially.
Yeah.
I love Vinnie Jones. We see a scene where Tony gets shot 6 times.
Yeah.
And this guy's just like unloading into him and his mouth starts bleeding, but he's like walking towards him like with a grimace on his face. And the reason they call him Bullet Tooth Tony is because he got shot 6 times, he lives, and when the bullets were taken out of him, he had one of them moulded into a tooth.
So got a tooth, yeah.
So he's now Bullet Tooth Tony. When he's again, Vinnie Jones, same thing as in Lock, Stock, he's slamming someone's head in a car door, and his car phone rings. So we're shot in 99 here. Everyone doesn't have a mobile, but he does have a car phone. And do you remember how he answers the phone? He's obviously really aggressively almost killing this guy by slamming his head in a car door. Do you remember what he does?
It's just like a casual, oh, hello, who's this?
Kind of. He reaches over this bloke's body. Oh, the car phone's like in the middle where your handbrake would be. Picks up the thing, goes, bonjour. Bricktop and Errol and his boys, and they've got Soul's gang all like tied down. And they offer up the diamond in exchange for their lives. They're like, what if we said we could get you a diamond as big as my fist in like the next 4 days? Bricktop asks Errol what he thinks. And he goes, I think we should bleed him dry. And he says, it was a rhetorical question, Errol. What have I told you about thinking? So they wanted 4 days. He tells them they got 48 hours to get this diamond, otherwise they're coming back.
Yeah.
Bullet Tooth Tony meets with RV, and he says, what should I call you, Tony, Bullet Tooth? He goes, you can call me Susan if it makes you happy. I fucking love Tony. Tony he asks for the phone, and he calls around to find out who robbed the bookies. They need to go see a man who might know something. And they go and find a guy called Mullet. Do you recognise Mullet?
Ewan Brenner.
Yes, from Trainspotting.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he's like, oi, Mullet. And Mullet looks like he's having a good day, right? He's chatting with his buddies. They're outside somewhere, like a pub or something. And he sees Tony. He's like, oh, for fuck's sake.
Yeah, it's like, oh, my day's ruined.
Yeah. Tony asks Mullet who robbed the bookies. And he says, I won't beat the shit out of you in front of all your mates if you tell me. Because he's like, I need something. But it's like, you need you to make it worth my while. It's like, okay. And he goes, that's a really nice tie you got there, Mullet. And he's like, oh, thanks. And as he gets closer with the tie, he grabs the tie, pulls Mullet through his car window, and does the window up. So Mullet's head is caught
stuck. Yeah.
in the car window. I love this scene. This scene is so good. And he says, oh, it's kind of ironic that lovely tie's gotten you in this predicament. He's like, Tony, what are you doing? He's like, driving down the street with your head stuck in my window. What do you think I'm doing, you peed arse? Which is another random pronunciation from this movie that sometimes slips into my dialogue. Like, you peed arse. Again, I wrote that phonetically.
As you should, you should.
I like the way Avi is in the passenger seat, and he's just looking kind of impressed. He's like, for those watching on YouTube, he's like, nodding approvingly, watching Tony do his thing. Mullet spills the beans quite quickly. Instead of stopping to let Mullet go, he just drops the window. Mullet goes rolling off.
Falls, yeah.
We cut to Tony holding a gun on Soul, and Soul's like, oh, it was Boris the bullet
immediately
dodger.
sells him out.
Yeah. Well, you would if fucking Vinnie Jones had a massive gun on your head. And Avi goes, why do they call him the bullet dodger? And he goes, because he dodges bullets, Avi. You fucking idiot. We cut to Turkish telling Bricktop about needing to get the caravan, but they can't because Bricktop has taken all their savings. So Bricktop threatens Turkish. He says, "You're not much good to be alive, are you, Turkish?" And then he hangs up the phone and he says, "He's a useless shite, that boy. Punish him for me, Errol." And the punishment is all the boys go and smash up Tommy and Turkish's like little. No, it's not a casino, but it's like an arcade with all like the one-armed bandits and the pub machines and stuff. And they're smashing it up with bats. Turkish catches them in the act, and he kind of reaches over his own counter and pulls out a bat. He slugs a couple of them before he realises there's like 8 of them.
Yeah.
He realises he's outnumbered. We get Bricktop in an attempt to persuade Mickey to fight. Burns Mickey's mum's caravan with her asleep in it.
Yeah.
And we kind of get this scene of Mickey screaming at the burning caravan, like flailing his limbs being held back. As we cut back to Turkish and Bricktop's boys, they've got Turkish pinned on the floor, and they're about to attack him with a fucking sword.
Yeah.
But then Tommy comes in with his gun that we know doesn't work, but they don't know that. And he holds it up and threatens them. They let Turkish go. And he kind of backs out of the shop with the gun still trailing on them. They kind of ask him to go forward, and he kind of shouts, and it's like, "Do you not think I'm going to do it?" And they kind of back out.
Yes.
And Turkish and Tommy go straight to see Mickey at the campsite. And Mickey's like, "You know what? To stop anything like this happening, like what happened with him, I'll fight. I'll stop the carnage. I will fight." Harvey and Tony and Doug are discussing Boris and how hard he'll be to find. And what happens at that moment, Tim?
Boris just walks into Harvey's shop.
Into Doug's shop, but yeah.
Yeah.
And they see him on the camera, they're like, "That's fucking him." Sol and Vince sent Tyrone, obviously they've forgiven Tyrone, to spy on Boris. Harvey's got like a heavy with him, like another American bloke, who wants to deal with Boris. He's like, "I'll deal with him, this fucking Russian." And we cut straight to back in Tony's car, and he's holding his ear and he's like bleeding.
Yeah.
But this point we don't realise though, they have still managed to, presumably it was Tony who did it, but Boris is tied up in the boot.
Yeah, so they still managed to nab him, but it's just...
I just assume he fucked up, so he obviously got done in by Boris, and Tony just come from behind and knocked Boris out or something.
Yeah, that's what I assumed.
You don't see it. Sol has got cut to another car as Sol and Vince are in there, and Sol's got these guns that say replica on them. He's like, "Well, they look legit, and who's going to mess with us?" Tyrone calls, and he's waiting outside Boris's house. He's like, "Boris is here," and then before he can say he's not alone, they hung up on him.
Yeah.
So they're obviously going to head to Boris's house. And they get there and they find his floor safe. No, hang on. Who finds the floor safe first? Oh, sorry. Tony and Harvey find the floor safe. Vince and Sol arrive after, as Ari tells Tony to kill Boris.
Yeah.
This is where everyone's heading for Boris's house. So we get that, and then we get Turkish and Tommy heading to Boris's house to get a new gun. Sol and Vince follow as Tony and Harvey leave with Boris still in their boot. Sol then gets out his replica gun in the car, and it's like, "Do they even fire? Do they even fire blanks?" And he fires it, and it breaks all the fucking windows.
Yeah.
He's like, "You wanted to see if they worked." He's like, I didn't mean try it in the car, Sol, you arsehole." Which I was like, that's a nice bit of text. Harvey, his henchman pulls out this knife, and it's quite a big. It's a kitchen knife, but it is like a foot long. And Tony's like, "That isn't a proper fucking blade. There's one down there, behind there." And he pulls out a fucking sword. So Tony in his car has just got a sword. This is where the kind of story. So you've got these 3 overlapping parts. You've got Turkish and Tommy. You've got Sol and Vince, and then you've got Harvey, Tony, and the henchman all in 3 different cars. And he kind of gets told in a backwards way now. And I think I quite like it. So we see things. We kind of see the event that calls the previous event afterwards. So it kind of gets told backwards. Yeah.
Yeah.
So with the windows smashed in the car after they fire the gun inside, Tyrone runs over Boris, who is still tied up and has his head covered, but he's standing in the middle of the road. We obviously don't know why yet. And then Tommy stops Turkish from drinking milk in the car and has a speech about evolution and our digestive system, and he throws the milk out the window. This hits Tony's car, and he crashes.
Crash.
Yeah, he crashes into a lamppost, And this is how Boris gets free, because the boot pops open.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's kind of how we got to the situation where Boris gets run over, he's out of the car, and we cut back inside the car, and Arvy's henchman guy has got the sword just through his chest.
Yeah.
Like obviously happened during the crash. Tony and Avi slope off into a pub so Tony can make a phone call. Sol and Vince are still in the car with... they still got the dog as well. And Turkish and Tommy are still on their way to Boris's house, obviously not knowing that Boris was already gone past them. Tommy is apparently going to tell Boris how it is and that he wants a new gun. And we actually get a bit where we still don't see what's happened just yet. They're standing outside waiting for Boris, and he comes through his front gate, and he looks pissed off. He's all like beaten up and stuff. And as he walks by, Tommy goes, like, you listen here, Boris. And Boris just grabs him by the bollocks and squeezes them. Turk's like, oh, well done, you told him. Boris goes inside, and he comes back with a fucking, like, assault rifle.
Yeah.
We see Tony on the phone in the pub, and he's like, landlord, a pint of the black stuff. So he wants a Guinness. And as he's like waiting for the phone call to be answered, he looks around and sees that his Guinness is half poured on the counter. So you do half pour a Guinness to let it settle, then you go again. And he turns around and he's like, oh, all right. And the landlord's gone as well. You see the landlord. This is really funny. If you go back and watch it, really badly acting. The landlord like ducks down, but he just like straight face goes. And we see that Sol and Vince and Tyrone have come in with balaclavas on and their replica guns. Tony doesn't even notice them at first. He kind of picks up his Guinness, his half Guinness, and goes and sits at a table before looking up and realising who they are. Now, Tony does a speech here that involves some homophobic slurs. Did you take note of this, Tim?
I did not.
So, Tony's got this long speech about the three of them. He's about Sol, Vince, and Tyrone. And this is his full speech. He looks, I think it's at Sol, and goes, so you're obviously the big dick. And there, on either side of you are your balls. There are two types of balls. There are big, brave balls, and there are mincy little, and then he uses a slur that begins with an F. You know the one I mean. There are mincy that balls. You dicks have drive and clarity of vision, but they're not clever. They smell pussy and they want a piece of the action. And you thought you smelt some good old pussy and have bought your two mincy, that he says that word again, balls along for a good old time. But you've got your parties muddled up. There's no pussy here. Just a dose that will make you wish you were born a woman. I don't even know what that means. Like a prick, you're having second thoughts, you're shrinking, and your two little balls are shrinking with you. And the fact that you've got replica written on the side of your guns, and the fact that I've got Desert Eagle .50 written on the side of mine, should participate your balls into shrinking along with your presence. Now fuck off. The fact that you get Vinnie Jones to deliver a monologue like that, and he delivers it really well.
Yeah.
I know it's got those two horrible like homophobic slurs in, but the delivery of the line and the kind of the point he's trying to make, he does very well. And again, it's one of those long ones that is often put on like good quotes from movies. Do you think, like, coming from the background you do, that's obviously aged not greatly, but I could also see why you would have like an East End gangster not give a fuck about saying it?
Yeah, like it. Yeah, it obviously has not aged gracefully using those words, but at the same time, it's like intensity of him just going away like, I'm just tougher than you, in the sense that like I'm a natural gangster, you guys are playing pretend.
Yeah, it's weird that I found more about this online than I did about the travelling community and the offence they might have taken to it.
Yeah.
Avi comes out of the bathroom because he went in there to clean himself up, and it's in like a side hallway, and the boys have all run off, and they threaten to shoot him if he doesn't hand over the case. And as they're having this interaction, you see Tony still in the pub, like listening to it through the wall, and Boris comes bursting in through the other back door, and he says the same thing. They're both like, give me the diamond or I'll shoot you. Tony hears all this, and he tells Avi to pull his socks up, which means duck down, and he just starts shooting through the wall. And the only person he catches is Boris.
Yeah.
He comes in and he asks Avi where the case went, and asks why Boris is there. Boris is like, fuck you. And Tony shoots him again. And this happens a few times. He's like, stop taking the piss, Boris. And he just keeps shooting him. And he won't die. Vince and Soul have
the bullets.
Yeah, exactly. Vince and Soul have legged it with the briefcase and left Tyrone on his own. As Tony goes to shoot Tyrone as well, he shoots and he just clicks and he's run out of bullets because he's used them on Boris. Soul and Vince get back to the pawn shop with the diamond, and they leave the dog there as well. They go to see Bricktop to give him the stone. Tony finds them straight away in their car.
Yeah.
And Vince has hidden the diamond in his pants. He tells them to, he like knocks his gun on the window, and they wind the window down. He says, "You should never underestimate the predictability of stupidity." Turkish and Tommy are back at their office with George, who's now got his jaw wired shut, which is the only other time we see him. Tommy wants to know what happens if Mickey doesn't take a dive. He's like, we get murdered before leaving the building, and I imagine we get fed to the pigs. Mickey gets real fucked up at his mum's funeral, like real drunk.
Yeah.
And this could mean he doesn't even make the 4th round or even the fight. Sol, Vince, Tony, and Avi go back to the pawn shop, and the dog has torn the shop to pieces. They pretend they can't find the diamond and say the dog must have eaten it.
Yeah.
Avi tells Tony to cut open the dog. He's like, what do you mean cut open the fucking dog? They all goes a bit mad for a second, and then Vince says, don't cut open the dog, don't cut open the dog. He's like produces the diamond from his trousers, and Avi checks that it's the right one. And as he's looking at it, like, this is it. He like checks it with his little monocle, and the dog jumps up and just runs off with the diamond.
Yeah, just grabs it.
Avi fires a load of bullets trying to kill the dog, and in his process, he accidentally kills Tony.
Yeah.
And he goes
so
straight
he
back.
escapes back to America.
And they say, anything to declare? And what does he say to him?
Never go to fucking London.
He's like, yeah, never go to England. Sol and Vince are like, we need to take these. So now they've got Tony's and they've still got Frankie's body. Yeah. So we need to get these to a pig farm, as they've been taught how to do. Turkish and Tommy go to Mickey's to get him, but he's hungover. Bricktop and his boys are sat outside the fight venue, and they say, if Turkish, Tommy, or Mickey leave the fight before he does, shoot them on sight. Bricktop has his men. They're waiting at the campsite, like just outside, with a load of guns in two kind of Land Rover type things. Bricktop tells Mickey about the men at the campsite, and he says, if you don't take a dive, there'll be a bunch of people at that campsite who don't think you're so funny. Mickey goes into the ring and just one punches the bloke again.
Yeah, this time Mickey fucks it.
Yeah, but this time the bloke does manage to get back up after about 7 or 8.
Yeah.
And Mickey then like kind of refuses to fight back. And they go to the end of the first round, they're like, you need to actually fight back, otherwise everyone's going to know you're taking a dive. Fuck's sake. This is where I think it's really shot like Sherlock, where Mickey's really taking this beating. I think it's beautifully shot, this fight. And we even get the bit where Mickey gets taken off his feet with an uppercut and it stops in midair. So good. Mickey nearly goes down too early from that uppercut, but he gets himself back up. And when he's on the floor, the other guy's like, just stay down. But then he pops back up, and that's when he knocks the other guy out in one punch again.
There's a bit when he's down, and like it looks like he's like drowning, and he's like swimming back up to his
that was
consciousness.
so beautifully shot, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
That was... Guy Ritchie doesn't do metaphors very often. But yeah, you're right. That is so great where he's like on the floor, and the guy's like, get back up. And he's, so like you said, floating kind of back, like floating in the water. Is like his body's coming upwards. He slowly reaches upwards, goes back into his body, immediately gets back to his feet and knocks him out in one punch. And the voiceover, Mickey's on the floor, and they must have reached the 4th round, because Turkish like, all he needs to do is stay down. Pops up, punches him in the face. Now we're fucked.
Yeah.
Bricktop leaves just as it's all about to kick off, and he makes a phone call, and we hear a bunch of gunshots. Mickey, Turkish, and Tommy stumble out of another exit, and Bricktop sees him by his car. He's like, give me the fucking shooter. And he goes to get... So he's asking someone in his car for a gun.
Yeah.
And we hear a gunshot, and there's a freeze frame, and Turkish and Tommy are like flinching, and Mickey's just stood there staring.
Yeah.
Turns out Mickey had this planned all along. At the campsite, we see that his friends weren't even in their caravans. They had surrounded the cars and just unload into the 2 cars, just round after round after round, killing all of Bricktop's men. And we see the Bricktop, what he actually heard on the phone of the shots was his own men being shot, and he knows that it's his own men. Bricktop asks for the gun from his own car. The window comes down, and the gunshot isn't from Bricktop, it's from one of Mickey's mates shooting Bricktop through the window. Mickey's, we find out from the voiceover, the 2 fights that Mickey was supposed to lose, where most people were betting on him to lose, he'd bet on himself and won loads of money.
Yeah.
Turkish and Tommy go to the campsite. Everyone's gone. The police find Turkish and Tommy hanging around. They're like, what do you know about... And they ask about... They use that word again. And he's like, nothing, I'm just here to walk the dog. Because the dog randomly appears, and it's the one with the diamond.
Yeah.
They get in the car, and they drive with the dog, and they drive past Sol and Vince, who are being searched by the police, and I've obviously got 2 bodies in the boot.
Yeah.
And we hear again, they get the dog operated on because he's also eating a squeaky toy, and they find the diamond. They call Doug to find out if it's real, who then calls Abby. Abby comes straight back to the UK.
Yeah.
Now, at the beginning, in his bit where we see their names, it's the only time we see Abby, and he's looking at the diamond.
Yeah.
It's the only time he's had the diamond, so we got to assume that bit from the title sequence, he's him after this, and he does get the diamond.
Yeah.
And that's it. That's the end of the film. What did you think of Snatch, Tim?
I thought it was really good. Yeah, it was really good. I guess because I didn't really have much of an expectation, especially with knowing what the film was about. I was like, I was happy with it. I think, there's a lot of use of outdated languages, obviously, which is the major drawback of the movie, but I don't think it really takes away from what is basically a solid crime comedy.
Yeah, I mean, it feels what it does. It's from 2000, and it does feel of that time too. Yeah. They're not meant to be kind of likable individuals. So they're saying these horrible things, but they're all pricks. They're all horrible gangsters and pricks, and yeah.
Like the only nice person in the movie was Mickey's mum.
Yeah, poor Mickey's mum.
But overall, I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, and I was right, was I? It is an incredibly, incredibly quotable movie.
Oh yeah.
Now,
definitely.
I actually set you a bit of extra credit. Did you watch Snatch Wars on YouTube?
I did not.
So, Timothy, we're going to take a break in the recording. You don't have to watch the whole thing. It's only 10 minutes anyway. You're going to go watch a couple of minutes of Snatch Wars for me.
Sure, typing up right now.
Just on YouTube, Snatch Wars.
Cool. We'll be back in a couple of minutes. All right. If I knew what this was going to be, I would have watched it immediately.
Well, give us a description. What is it?
It's Darth Vader, but it's him as Bricktop. So it's just Bricktop lights over him.
And a lot of them
it works so perfectly.
A lot of them work so well. It's so funny. I don't like. It was a viral video. I can't remember how old is it. You've got it up on your screen.
It says 15 years old.
Yeah, and I just remember it landing, and two films that I really liked being merged together. It's all from, I think all of it's from A New Hope. I think all of it's from the original film. I don't think they go outside that one. But the bit where, like, one of the not the stormtroopers. No, he's one of the stormtroopers. Stops him to talk to him. He's like, "If you stop me again while I'm walking, sunshine, I'll cut your Jacobs off." It's just.
Oh, it's perfect.
And like Princess Leia talks to him. He's like, "Who's talking to you, sweetheart?" So, Tim, I'll leave you to enjoy that. You watched about a minute or so, but I'll leave you to enjoy the rest of it after recording. Anyone else? If you enjoy Snatch and you enjoy Star Wars, go on YouTube, look up Snatch Wars, and watch.
Yeah, perfect combination.
Watch Bricktop's lines dubbed over Darth Vader. It's very funny. They even put a slight Vader effect on it.
Yeah,
it's very good. I can't believe it's 15 years old, to be honest. I thought it was about 10. Good. I'm really glad you enjoyed Snatch. I was, again, I've never been massively concerned about anything I've asked you to watch, because most of it I've asked you for a reason whether I think it's very good or whether I think it was good for its time and then aged or whatever.
Yeah,
There's always
yeah.
a reason I ask you to why I pick stuff. And I did think you would like it in general, but I didn't know. I was like, is how much will he like it? Will he be like, oh yeah, it's pretty good, or will he be like, oh no, this is quality.
Yeah,
It's very good.
No, it is.
Good.
It is very good. Yeah.
Good. So, Timothy, 2 weeks. What are you gonna? Oh no, I do know because you
I
told
gave
me
you
before.
a choice.
You told me before
We did
the 40th episode. Go on,
yes, because I gave you a choice a couple of episodes back where it was going to be either Dune 1984 first or this first, and I feel like you might have gone, oh, I made the wrong choice here.
No, because June I didn't enjoy, but Ted feels like it's going to be dessert after that. So.
Yes, we are watching the Ted TV series, which I only watched very recently, but I do think this is Seth MacFarlane's best work in a very, very, very long time.
Better than American Dad in general, because American Dad is top.
American Dad is top, but because this is a much smaller, more concise show,
Okay.
the writing does feel tighter.
Okay. Oh, that's one thing I should have mentioned, actually. So just to jump back to Snatch for a minute, there was a TV show made. I think it was one season. It might have been two, but I think it was one. It starred Rupert Grint. Never watched it. I've heard it was rubbish.
Yeah.
But yes, there is a Snatch TV show. Sorry, go on. Yeah, Ted. I'm actually looking forward to this. I have seen I think, have I seen both movies? I've definitely seen the first one. I can't remember if I've seen the second one.
Yeah, I think I've seen both films. So for this, we're only going to watch the first and fourth episode.
Weird. Go on.
No, this is like the one thing in a long time where I've shown you where you don't need to follow all the episodes. But the first episode is really good because it gets a lot of things like set up. Then the fourth episode, I think it's the best episode of the season.
Nice. Well, I look forward to that. I am genuinely, sometimes I've told you this before. Sometimes I lie to you and say I'm looking forward to it. I'm actually looking forward to this one. When you were getting me to do The Evil Dead, I was never looking forward to it. I'm not going to lie to you.
Hey, at least for two of them, it was worth it.
Yeah, no, admittedly, I did enjoy a couple of those movies. But, enjoying it, was it 2 out of 6? That's not a great hit ratio. Cool,
Well,
excellent.
This is a social link stuff.
Oh, the socials, which we keep promising we're going to do more of, and we don't do.
Yeah, we're out of practice with mentioning our socials. It's been a while since we sat down and recorded.
Yeah, so my socials, you can follow me at bdavies_creative on Instagram, or just bdavies _creative on X, the site formerly known as Twitter. That is mostly me retweeting stuff from Purpose Wrestling and talking about wrestling, and occasionally insulting RJ Singh quite publicly for being, and I don't think he's ever listened to our podcast, but RJ Singh, you're terrible, and he'll get that reference. Yeah. And then my Instagram is all my creative endeavors, or most of the creative endeavors. I haven't posted for a few weeks. I've been a bit busy, but there'll be some more stuff going up there soon. I actually have a whole Purpose show that I've posted nothing about. The show has been and gone, and I still didn't post any of the artwork. The main Purpose account posted it, but I didn't. And I always post the artwork from the shows. So there you go.
The show is called Mathletics, by the way, everyone.
It was called Mathletics. You can find it very soon on YouTube if David Francisco pulls his finger out and does some editing.
He watches this, so...
And guess what? I did ring announcing.
Oh, nice.
Mathletics. And I think I did a good job.
Everyone watch the show and comment, Bobby did a good job.
Please, yeah. Make me look great. Cool. Where can we find you, Timothy?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram. Like, I have a TikTok, but I barely use it unless I need to promote something, which I don't need to for a while. So I'm at the Tim Martini on all the socials. You can also follow my music on Spotify, Timothy Martini. It's there, the new song. I mean, I can't really speak much about it now, but we'll make an announcement about that soon. It'll be there in a very short period of time. I'm really excited about it. And you can follow us, the show, the podcast, on X, Instagram, Threads at CC Society Pod. You can follow us on Facebook at Cult Classic Society.
You've got it, mate. You look. I don't even need to help. Go on.
We're Reddit at is it u/CC Society Pods? I don't use Reddit.
It's something like that, yeah. You'll just search CC Society Pod, you'll find it.
Yeah, we're pretty much everywhere on every social media. If you're watching us on YouTube, but you go, I want to listen to these guys on the go, we're on all podcasts and sites at Cold Classic Society. If you're on Spotify, like, I want to watch these guys on YouTube, find us on YouTube, Cold Classic Society. Subscribe and hit the notification bell to be notified, which is apparently something we always need to say. And if you want to interact with us and you want to send us an email, ccsocietypod@gmail.com. I think I got all of it.
you know when earlier we were talking about how the premise of this podcast, or one of the premises of this podcast, is that there's an age gap between us, so we may have different views. Really, I just didn't want to have to learn all the social stuff, and you're young, and this is just like part of your vernacular. So you just
it's also part of my actual shoot job. So
oh yeah, I forget that you do all that stuff. So yeah, I'll just leave you to it. I'm not. This isn't my forte. I tried to liven up our Twitter for a bit, and I was just like, this is long.
And also Twitter's a cesspool, so
yeah. Well, I think the problem is I want to chat with people on it, and it was just me screaming into the void about how good the new Doctor was.
And it has been good.
Yeah.
See, what you need to be controversial, and you need to say it's been terrible.
Oh, it's been terrible. No, wait, that was RJ Singh. Doctor Who was brilliant.
Yeah. Well, until next time, I've been Tim Martini.
What's that, Tim? I can't... Hang on, I'm just going to go get my binoculars.
I think what I found is that we could see Bobby's legs in the reflection of his mirror.
Shut up, Tim. I'm gonna cut that bit out. We don't go as wide as that in the shot. Fine.
And we'll see you guys next time.
And I will say bonjour.